Yo, what's up? I'm QR Sinceri, and today we're going to be talking about Meta Horizons. For those that don't know, Meta Horizons is the metaverse world for Meta, formerly known as Facebook. I know this is going to get a little weird. I'm going to call it Meta, not Facebook. So if you get confused between Meta and Metaverse, I'll try to make the distinctions. But we're going to just go see what the future of Meta Horizons is. Like, I've heard some things, I've seen some things, but let's just go. Let's dive in. For those that don't know, every day I ask myself, what's the future? And I take detailed notes and I store them in a journal. You can find those notes and more of these videos over at everydays.wtf. I swear, if you want to be a future thinker or you're thinking about the future and pondering some of the emerging technologies and the impacts that they will have on our lives, everydays.wtf is probably going to be a fun place for you to check out. With that being said, let's go ahead and hop into the topic of the year. This has been the topic of 2022. It's been the topic of 2023 now. And it's this whole concept of Meta and their whole metaverse ambitions. Most people say the metaverse is not here. The death of the metaverse is imminent. AI basically stole the thunder of the metaverse. The metaverse was never really anything. And here's how I feel. I feel that people are entitled to their opinions. And if that's your opinion, great. However, some of the smartest people in the world are getting behind this concept and this notion and introducing a magnitude of different technological devices and saying, hey, we think there's something here. And I think to dismiss all of those people is probably quite foolish. And think about Mark Zuckerberg. This guy, he knows how to build products, he knows how to get billions of people to show up places. If he's betting that this is the next stepping stone and this is the next place, I think we should all give that some precedent and some credence, and we should hear him out, and we should try to get behind it. We get behind Instagram, we get behind Facebook, we get behind all these places, but that's just my personal opinion. There's some YouTubers that have been out there, and it's not just one, but there was one about 2 weeks ago that just did crazy numbers, and he unearthed that there's only 900 daily users in Horizon Worlds, and yeah, everyone talks about how Meta spent $36 billion to build the metaverse, only 900 daily users. What does that mean? Let's unpack that a bit. So the YouTuber Jarvis spent a full week living in Meta's Horizon Worlds, the most popular metaverse as it's deemed on their platform. And most popular in this case, they say, is speculative, with Meta themselves estimating fewer than 200,000 monthly users. Unfortunately, Jarvis, the YouTuber, in his investigation, he found that, Meta Horizon Worlds has closer to 900 daily users. So, what do you think? I mean, I'm of the notion that, like, yeah, we can look at Meta Horizon and we could say, well, they don't have that many users. But when you think about the metaverse and you think about how nascent the metaverse is, we don't even really have the hardware. So even if they had, let's say, 200,000 headsets sold, how many of those people are picking up their headset at the same frequency that they are picking up their iPhone or their Snapchat or their YouTube? Like, it's just not, it's apples and oranges. Right now, we're talking about a very early computing device, one that Apple themselves hasn't even been able to push out yet. Like, the Apple Vision Pro was announced, but there's no one that has it just yet. And I'm trying to make this point clear that I think when we look at monthly daily users, this is not a new web app. I think when we quantify it and say, well, no one's using it, it's like, do people even know how to use it? And just because no one's using it the way that you want them to use it doesn't mean that no one's using it. And this is a point where when you think about the early days of whether it be the internet, whether it be NFTs, whether it be even AI today, there's a lot of people that use these things, and those are the early pioneers, the early adopters. Those are the people that are figuring out how to daisy chain the software and make all that stuff come together. But those people are oftentimes, far and few. You don't have a plethora of pioneers saying, hey, this is the new use case. And yes, the metaverse was the buzzword of the year. There's no doubt about that. And we're starting to see a drastic decline, as we've seen with all net new technologies. They're saying that the NFT based worlds or metaverse worlds have declined to 98% or worse. And I get it. This is not a really good outlook. But when you think about what the metaverse represents, and if we go down to the term of the metaverse representing a spatial web, the next frontier after the internet, guess what? There's going to be a lot of people that try things and fail, and we can't chastise them for failing. What matters is getting it right. There was a lot of platforms before YouTube for streaming video, but YouTube got it right. So it brings me back to my point. Jarvis, he spent a week alone in the metaverse, and the video is quite good. I mean, obviously, it was number two on trending on YouTube. When I watched it, millions of people had watched it. It was a good video. This is my favorite moment from that video, though.
Metacourt is maybe one of my favorite experiences in VR because it involves kids being creative and not saying slurs. It appears to be a role-playing world for the court system, and people take turns holding the roles of judge, jury, plaintiff, defendant. You've seen court TV before.
I have reached my verdict.
What? This is basically that, but in VR, and these kids are no less qualified than Steve Harvey, so who am I to judge, pun intended? I got there right as a new case was starting, so I floated my ass to a seat in the gallery and waited for the case to begin. On the upside, this whole thing was organized by kids, which is adorable. And on the downside, it's organized by kids, so it's complete chaos. People were interrupting the court, creating portals to other worlds, which is the closest thing the metaverse has to disturbing the peace, and the only form of crowd control is to vote to have someone kicked from the world. So that happened a lot. 5 minutes after arriving at Metacourt, just planning to hang out, so many people were kicked that I was asked to be a member of the jury.
Come on, Jarvis.
It was very stressful. These kids are very impatient.
Going jury. Going jury.
You cooperate with this. Come on, jury.
I didn't know. I haven't been here before. I didn't know where the jury was. Once I got to the jury, I realized they were already at closing statements.
This is closing statements.
Oh,
No more evidence.
And I didn't know what was going on or what the case was, so I accidentally sentenced someone to 25 years in jail for stealing a dog.
25 years.
25 years to life, just 25 years.
There were originally more members of the jury, but they couldn't sit still because they were children, or they started playing music over their microphone, or tried to steal the judge's spot. So I was the sole voting member of the jury, and I just have to say, the criminal justice system is working as intended. I had to leave the court because I was given far too much power.
Man, it's pretty crazy, right? When we think about the metaverse and the simulations that people create in the environments for learning that can also be manifested, but also at the same time, you can have a lot of environments that are entertaining, like the one we just saw. It's pretty cool from that perspective. Now, for me personally, these are the things that fascinate me. These are the things that make me go super deep. If you know me, you might have known that I'm the author of the Metaverse Handbook. And as one of the authors of that book, one of the things that I really focused on when we wrote it about a year ago was I knew that the technologies that we had then were not going to be the final frontier, but the creators, the innovators, the people that were in those worlds then would probably still go on to be defining where we would be going in the metaverse, because those were going to be our best allies in figuring out what that future looked like. So if you want to read, a few case studies about people that are making movies in the metaverse, people that are starting businesses in the metaverse, people that are defining, musical careers in the metaverse, I recommend you check out the Metaverse Handbook. And yes, the metaverse can, if you want it to be a ghost town. But just like most ghost towns, they've got a story. And some of those stories behind those ghost towns are quite fascinating to millions. So I would check that out. But for the people that are like, look, I'm not a reader, I'm not going to be about it. There's a big, big, big conference coming up. And this is in January of 2024. And it's called Metaverse Day. You can find out more at metaverseday.com. But most of the pioneers that are defining this space from a strategic perspective or from an alliance perspective are going to be at this conference. It's virtual, so that means you can attend it from anywhere in the world. I'll be a speaker, And one of the things that I want to point out is that this is something that is constantly evolving. What we understood of the metaverse 3 years ago is vastly different than what it is today. And that's going to continuously happen as we start to get new frameworks, new hardware, new software. We redefine what community actually means from a virtual standpoint. And we go beyond the video games as it relates to the metaverse. But with that being said, I do gotta run. Every day I do ask myself, what's the future? And I take detailed notes and store them in a journal. What you got a chance to do is view a little bit of my thoughts and insights as it relates to meta and how people are positioning Horizon worlds. I think there's a lot more to come. I think we have not even seen the breadth of it, but I will explain more of my thoughts on the metaverse and other emerging technologies over at Everydays. Go ahead and check it out. It's everydays.wtf because every day I ask myself, what's the future? And until next time, I will catch you in the future.